Good afternoon, Facebook and Zoom meeting participants. Thank you for tuning in to like the 20th. We're between 18 and 20 meetings regarding Follow the Progress series, which is the series regarding Newark's water update. At these meetings, you are able to engage with our knowledgeable panelists about anything related to Newark water, whether it be the lead service line replacements, the corrosion control, post-replacement lead service, post-replacement water sampling, or water filters and replacement cartridges. My name is Andrea Mason. I serve as the Senior Manager of Newark People's Assembly. I recommend that you stay connected to my office by joining the email database. You can send an email to Newark People's Assembly at ci.newark.nj.us or visit the City of Newark's website, which is newarknj.gov, and we are listed under the Community tab. This is a sure way for you to get the latest information and the happenings within the city. So not to belabor the point, because we have only an hour for this meeting, I am pleased to turn it over to Karima Dean, the Director of Water and Sewer Utilities, who will then introduce the rest of the panel. Director Dean.
Good afternoon. How we doing, everybody? I'm Karima Dean, City of Newark Department of Water and Sewer Utilities. Just want to give you a little more updates on the status of our water progress and just enlighten you on some of the projects that the Water Department is doing and will be planning to do in the near future. Next, I'll pass it on to Jerry or Tiffany.
Tiffany, why don't you go first? I think you're on mute.
Tiffany Stewart, City of Newark, Department of Water and Sewer.
You went back on mute.
Yeah, I think because I have an echo.
So everyone know that's Tiffany Stewart, Assistant Director, Department of Water and Sewer Utilities. This while she's fixing her communication difficulties. She'll be here just to enlighten you that we're still testing, we're still doing our thing. We'll pass it over to Jerry Noddy.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Director Adim and Andrea. My name is Jerry Noddy, as I stated, and I serve as the license operator for the City of Newark's water treatment plant and its water distribution system. I'm also a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, and I work as a consultant to the City of Newark.
So before you get started, I just want to mention to those individuals who are either listening or watching that if you want to come directly into the Zoom room, if you want to log on via Zoom, or if you know someone not on social media that is interested in participating, they can most certainly call in. We are also on Zoom, so they can dial 301-715-8592. And that information will be put in the chat. It's 301-715-8592. The meeting ID is 8953-504-5840#. So we just want to make sure that any and everybody that's interested in getting this information has the ability to get it. So now, Director Adim.
Just to update you, we haven't. We feel good about the progress of the samples that we've submitted. We haven't heard back from the state yet, but we're still confident that those numbers are still holding. The next step is we'll be starting our second half of the year testing period within the next couple of weeks. Just want to encourage residents that we're still doing post-replacement sampling. We're still mailing out these kits for the free post-replacement sampling as we continue to monitor the water quality right after lead service replacement. want to encourage you to make sure you're sending it back, sending back these kits. They're free, you can mail it back for free. The testing is free. And it's important that we continue to get data on how the water quality is related to lead. So, I just want to emphasize that. I also want to emphasize that our health department, Dr. Wade and his staff over there, we don't want to get lost in the middle of the water crisis. The water challenge. That the health department is still providing free lead testing, right? Free lead testing for children at 110 William Street. And you can call 973-733-LED, 733-LED, and they're providing free home inspections, right? Where they can test your home for lead to see if you have any lead paint or anything in some of the older homes into the city. At that same number, 973-733-LED. And you may qualify to get a free home abatement at the city's lead program. And the city has been abating lead in homes, right, for close to 60 years. So I just want to acknowledge that those programs still are going on and they're free, right? And one of the most important things is, I know a lot of us may have, scaled back a little bit, but we're still providing free filter replacement cartridges and free water filters. Free filter replacement cartridges and free water filters or water pitchers.
So
I
Director,
remind residents, you need to change the filter, pick up a free water filter replacement cartridge or a free pitcher. You can come over, you can call our 973-733-6303. You can pick it up at those locations that we list on the website, or you can email us at waterandsewer@ci.north.nj.us. It's important that
Director Dave, excuse me for cutting you off, but in my intro, I did mention that we're almost at like 20 meetings regarding the status of Newark's water. And why is it that we had to have so many meetings? Why is it so important that we educate the community about what's going on with Newark's water? And then my follow-up question is, you were talking about the filters, and I realized that, not a lot of people are still using the filters. Why is it important for people to still use filters, even though the numbers have come back pretty decently?
So let me ask you your first question. It's important that we be very transparent. A lot of times people say that, the city is not being transparent. They're not communicating, right? They're not letting us know what's going on with the water, right? So we send out mailers. We were highly criticized, right? For not, I didn't see that come in the mail. Nobody told me why I have to search for information. So this is another way, right? Social media is great. I think we've evolved from just sending out regular mailers that you may throw away to using social media. And this is another way, right, to reach residents right here, to communicate, to have meetings like we're having today, just to update you on not only the lead progress, right, but other things that the Department of Water and Sewer that may be doing, right, and resources that's available to you, right, from the city and the Water and Sewer Department, and letting you know how we're doing infrastructure improvements, right, not just related to lead, but just related to water quality, right, water treatment, and sewer, right, flooding, conveyance, all those type of things too, right, to let you know the future of water and sewer. People always say, hey, we get calls, they working on my block, they got detour signs out. They left a post on my block. What are they doing? Oh, they're replacing the sewer line. They're cleaning the sewer line, right? They're relining the sewer line. We're cleaning the catch basins on the corner. We're removing the debris out of it. We're repairing, we're putting water lines in. We're putting new water mains in. We're doing heavy cleaning of water mains. We're replacing fire hydrants. So this is another avenue for us to give you that information. The filters, right? We do know that we're in the final stages of removing lead service lines. Another reason we get on the phone, get on this meeting like this, because it's about, a couple thousand residents, right? Or properties in the city that we haven't been able to get access to, right? Not access because they're vacant or abandoned. Access because, you know, when we're knocking on the door or we're calling or we're leaving messages, nobody's getting back to us. We want to replace those lines, right? So it's another avenue to share with, you know, the community as a whole. When you see the water department or our contractors out there, and you know that we're leaving information with you or your neighbor, yes, CDM Smith is still working for us. Grant Engineering is still working for us. Roman E&G is still working for us, replacing lead service lines. Underground Utilities is still working for us, replacing lead service lines. The Jazz Group is still working for us, replacing lead service lines. These are companies out there. Pacific Construction is still working for us, replacing lead service lines. Alfonso Mechanical. So some of those companies that you may think are strangers, and they're providing their ID, they're in their credentials to get into your house. We're just coming to replace your lead service line. We're not trying to perform any type of inspections, but to inspect to see what type of material you have at the meter so we can schedule a date to replace that line. Right? The program is going to end soon. We wanted to end saying we replaced 100% of the known lead service line for every household we went to. And we want your neighbors to know that they can help us by helping you get us access into there to finish up those remaining homes.
So I know that we want to hear from the other panelists, but I do see that there is a question on Facebook. And as you were speaking, my brain juices are always flowing. So I have a few more questions. So on Facebook, this resident says, I've recently purchased a home on Smith Street and the water lines haven't been changed from curb to home due to non-vacant. I only closed last month. I sent an email to the director, but haven't gotten a response.
So I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that question. So is the order in 2019 of September, the city approved the ordinance that says prior to transfer a deed, you have to ensure that you have a lead service line. And if you do, it needs to be changed. So if you had a home inspection, or maybe you didn't have a home inspection, you should have verified if you had a lead service line and get that lead service line replaced prior to the change of deed, the change of ownership of that property. Now, if that didn't happen, you can still apply for the lead service line program, right? But we're not going to divert the people in front of you that didn't get their line replaced to come and replace yours.
Okay.
Right? Because the ordinance stipulates it needs to be changed prior to the transfer of deed. So right now it's up to the homeowner of the new homeowner, if that didn't happen, to get that lead service line replaced.
So I'm a little confused, and maybe because I am, it's possible that somebody else is. So if I understand what you're saying correctly, you don't need permission to actually change lead sewer lines, but you do need access to a house.
No, the city don't need permission to change any line. The ordinance the ordinance gave us permission.
But
However, in the city, it was a amount of vacant homes. Most vacant homes that were not burnt down to the point where they were going to be bulldozed and demolished, we replaced lead service lines up to the curb and we capped it, right? Due to the fact we couldn't get access into the property. The bank didn't get back to us, or the LLC didn't get back, and they were boarded up homes or secured homes, right? However, the ordinance, that's why we put the ordinance in place. In the event that that previous owner sells that property, right? It's disclosed in the ordinance. You need, prior to the transfer of deed, you need to replace the lead service line at your cost. I had the city's cost. The city had a free program, and we did numerous attempts to try, reaching out to the banks, reaching out, because it's a vacant home. It's not an occupied home, it's a vacant home. And we weren't able to get access, right? So now somebody bought the home, they're looking at renovating and fixing it up. Oh, I need to get the other part of the lead line replaced. That's the question they're asking.
Okay, so now I understand it. And just clarification, the program is ending. So anybody that's now moving into a home that was otherwise vacant and the line was not changed previously, they're responsible for the service.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay.
And we're not saying that you can't contact one of the city's lead contractors, right, to pay him on your own. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying we've already visited that address, and the funding is for the remaining addresses that need to get done. And if there's money available at the end, and you still in the habit process, we may or may not be able to do that, but we don't know right now.
Thank you for that clarity. So regarding the lead service lines, how many total lead lines that needed to be replaced? And then what is the current number of lead lines that have been replaced?
Andrea, thanks for asking that question, right? I just want to give a clarity on that, because I think over the years, people always say, oh, we're jumping around, we're playing with the numbers. The city of Newark has almost 40,000 accounts, service accounts for water lines. Of those 37,000 accounts, a little over 19,000 of them were known to us, were known to have lead service lines. Another maybe 5,000 needed to be investigated. The records, said that they didn't have lead service lines. It need to be evaluated. So that's the process we're doing now, right? Going through and showing, hey, this house said they had a lead line. One record said it didn't, just to ensure that it didn't have a lead service line. I want to thank our mayor, right? Because his vision was, hey, we do the block by block approach, right? Earlier on, we had residents saying, hey, they working at Andrea's house, right? They skipped my house and they did the house next to me. Why did they do my house? The records say you don't have a lead service line. So we started doing a free test pit to verify to you, because you live there, you don't have a lead service line. It's not a new house that was built in the 2000s. It's a house that may have been built in the 80s or the late 90s, where the records say you had your line replaced, but it didn't tell us if you had a full replacement. If you had a full replacement, you may have just replaced your line from the meter to the curb. So we need to verify that that was a full replacement, right? It's always human error. So those are the two situations we're doing now. We're catching up on the residents that didn't allow us to come in during COVID, and we understand that, right? So they're opening their doors now and they're vaccinated. They have a little more information about COVID than what they had in the first half of 2020, right? In the second, and up into the fourth quarter, they started getting more information about COVID and how it's transmitted. So they're letting us back into their homes. But it's still a group that's not, for some reason, we're not able to make all the appointments. And we're ramping up, with our teams out in the field to make sure we get into those homes. But right now, we've replaced 20,625 lead service lines as of yesterday.
Ooh, can you repeat that number?
20,625 as of yesterday. So on average, we're replacing about 52 to 53 homes per day, right? Because now summer's here, all our focus is on all those homes that we need to, inspect or get the replacement. And meetings like we had last week, just from the meeting we had, what was it? We know, what was that, 2 weeks ago? You were Tiffany?
It was on July 1st, our last
just
meeting.
from that meeting we had 2 weeks ago, the amount of people that got that a meeting like this has touched has allowed us to move from 35 replacements a day to 53. Right? Because they say, oh, those contractors, that's what they're doing. They're letting us in. Those people that's about to buy homes that didn't let us in and say, oh, I got a lead line. Oh, let me call a lead program because I'm trying to buy this house. It's vacant. They're calling us, right? And they're scheduling appointments to get the line replaced before they buy the home.
So Director Deem, specifically for this resident, because she seems to be one of the few that are actually engaging. So, hey, the meeting could be for her. So is there a possibility that the lead service replacement is sponsored by the city, even though she missed the opportunity when we may have come to that doorstep, you know, a couple months ago, if not last year?
So let me just clarify something. We can't, the money, the city's program is free, right? So it's rules into the program, right? And it's called, it's called the no access procedure or vacant protocol. No, it's two protocol, no access in the vacant protocol. That's under the vacant protocol. The vacant protocol allows us to replace it up to the curb and cap it, right? So nobody can go in that house and be occupied with a lead line. And the ordinance says you need to change it, right? I can't tell the homeowner that, oh, the city's going to come back and change it, right? Because we have people in front of you. We're not going to spend their money to replace your line, and then we're short from replacing those residents' lines.
I understand. No, you said it before. I just wanted to word it a little differently. Thought the answer might be a little different.
It'll be the same.
And also, so typically, how much is a lead service line replacement?
Well, it depends, right? Because right now, because we have a so aggressive program, right, and we had multiple contracts out. It can go anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000 or $11,000. Remember, and Andrea, just to clarify, this a part of the vacant protocol, replacing that line from the street up into the curb is capping it, because we need to come back and pave that street and fix that street. We don't want to be ripping the street back up. We try to minimize, we just put a new street down because our engineering department is paving, right? We don't want to go there and just rip up the freshly new asphalt. That's why we put the line in to the curb and capped it. Now the resident or the homeowner, not the resident, the homeowner or the company needs to come in and just replace the other part of the line. And we'll provide you a list of approved contractors to do that work.
So can you explain to people how they look up or find out if their lead service line was already replaced?
You can call 973-733-6303 or email us at water and sewer. One word, water and sewer at ci.newark.nj.us, or you can go to our famous website, newarkleadserviceline.com, and type in your address. And Tiffany, when she'll explain all the great programs about that website that's updated, I think weekly, daily, in real time.
So I'd like to now shift over to Ms. Stewart, because I want to hear about water sampling, why it's so important, and also if you want to continue to speak about the website and all of the functions of it, please feel free. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Multiple devices.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, so the city has, as everyone is probably aware, a post-construction water sampling program. This program is done in partnership with 120 Water Audit. That program allows for residents to automatically receive a testing kit at the end of a 6-month period after your lead service line has been replaced. You'll receive what the director is holding up right now in his hand, a package like that. It's automatically sent out to you, as I stated before. Inside that package, you will find the sampling bottle, which is where you will collect the water sample. And you'll also have instructions and a chain of custody form. It's very important that you follow the instructions and that you also complete the chain of custody form, which is provided to you in English and Spanish and can be provided to you in another language if you call and request it, either at the 973-733-6303 number or by emailing us at waterandsewer@ci.newark.nj.us. That chain of custody form will explain to you how you need to collect the water sample. And then it'll also ask for pertinent information about how that water sample was collected, when it was collected, who collected the water sample, and information like that, the date, the time, etc. If you can see it on your screen. That must be filled out completely. And it's important that it's filled out completely because that is used to verify that the sample was properly collected and that we can then go ahead and analyze it. Once you complete that form, and if you have any questions about completing the form, please feel free to email or call us and someone will assist you. But once you fill out that form, you want to make sure that you secure the bottle. So make sure that the tight is on tightly so that the water sample doesn't spill out while it's traveling through the mail. And then you want to put that back in the box with the chain of custody form that you've completed. And you will secure the box. It's pre-posted, so you don't have to worry about putting postage on it or anything like that. And you can drop it in the mail. As an alternative to dropping it in the mail, you can also drop it off at our field operations office, which is 239 Central Avenue. You can drop it off in either place, and it'll be sent to 120 so that it can be analyzed by the appropriate lab. Once we analyze the sample, or actually this isn't one that NORC analyzes, 120 has it analyzed. Once the sample is analyzed, you will receive the results within about 2 weeks. And once you receive the results, if there's any follow-up that needs to be done, NORC will contact you with respect to any follow-up that has to occur as a result of the sample. Those results will also be uploaded to the city's website, the NORC Water and Sewer website that we spoke about, norcleadservicelines.com. That website has a plethora of information, including how many lead service lines we replaced. It'll have information about any water sampling analyses that were completed for the property. It'll allow you to see if you're looking up, if you're thinking about buying a property, recently bought a property, or want to check your own property that you're currently in, you can use the Check My Address tool, and it'll provide you with information about whether or not that line has been replaced, what material the line is, if it was replaced under the lead service line program, who was the contractor that did it, what was the date of completion, all those things. It'll also provide you information regarding filters and replacement cartridges and filters and pitchers, and water bottles. Also, bottled water, it'll provide information about whether or not that was distributed for that property also. So it's a very useful tool for residents. Usually, if you have a question about anything, you can usually get it answered there first. And if for some reason you have something specific that you're looking up that is not located on the website, obviously, please feel free to give us a call. Here you'll see on your screen, this is what the website actually looks like, and you have a few different options. You can click on check your address, which is what I was mentioning earlier about putting in any address in the city and finding out information about the lead service line material, filters, cartridges, and things like that. The director is going to just walk you through putting in that information. So there's a search bar up here. You'll type in your information, the property address, and then it'll take you directly to a map. Once you are at that map, you can click on one of the, if you could click on a green one, director, so that we can see. That a green dot means that the lead service line has been replaced. And once you click on that, on the left-hand side where the legend is, it'll bring up information regarding that property. So if you scroll down, if you press on info and you scroll down, it should provide you with information about the lead service line material, filters, cartridges, any water sampling that was done at that location. So here it says that the lead service line replacement was completed for this residence on October 2nd, 2019 under contract 20 by Montana Construction. And then for filters, it says that we recommend you continue using the filters as the director said. If you have questions, it has an email, a phone number and email address where you can contact us. Also has the history of when filters were distributed for this property and also when replacement cartridges were distributed. If you look a little bit further down, it also gives you bottled water information. So it has an abundance of information on this website about any property in the city. So I would encourage residents to take advantage of that and utilize this website as much as possible, because we have made it as comprehensive as we can possibly think of, based on the questions that we receive from residents on a regular basis, and just information in general that we think would be helpful to the residents having access to. So that's the website, and bottled water, and filter and cartridge replacement information. So if anyone has any questions about that, obviously feel free to give us a call or email us, and we will be sure to contact you back as soon as possible.
I was trying to catch you before we moved, got away from the website. If you could share your screen again. And I'm sure the resident, if we could go specifically to that home, because it is a different scenario, I think the public would like to see what it would look like if it didn't show lead service line replacement and picking up filters and stuff like that. The address is 319 Smith Street. So I see it's green.
Yes, it's green. So that means that the property has had their lead service line replaced under the lead service line program. So if you go to the legend on the side, you'll see lead service line was completed for this residence on May 14th, 2020 under contract 20 by Montana Construction. At the time the lead service line replacement was performed on this home, it was unoccupied and considered to be abandoned. The lead service line piping was replaced from the water main to the curb. The piping from the curb to the meter could not be replaced because the city was not granted access to the home. The homeowner is responsible for replacing the piping from the curb to the meter at their own expense. This is specifically what the director was talking about and explaining previously, which is that if there was a vacant property, we completed what we could complete based on the access that we had from the curb to the main. And the resident, if someone has purchased that home, is going to have to, one, reach out to the city and let them know that they would like to be in the program. And then they can wait until the end of the program to see if there are still funds available for us to go back to that property. If the resident doesn't want to wait, then they can reach out to the Department of Water and Sewer, and we can provide them with a list of approved contractors to have that line replaced on their own. Now, when the director was talking earlier about costs, he was talking specifically referring to a full lead service line replacement, meaning from the main to the meter inside the home. So that's the cost of $7,500 to $11,000. Because we've already replaced from the main to the curb, it's going to be considered a partial replacement. So they'll be replacing from the curb to the meter. That cost is slightly less. So it will vary depending on the contractor. So I just want to make that distinction for residents as well.
Appreciate that. And then the last question, and you
Andrea,
just sharing screen.
go ahead. Yeah, I'll let you go. Yeah.
Just wanted to know, so in this case, and I think that we're satisfied and understand now, we have a visual of it. Is the resident able to get the water turned on despite having lead, a lead pipe?
No. They will not be able to get the water turned on if they have a lead service line. If we've replaced it partially to the curb and capped it, they are required to have the service line replaced before water can be restored.
And Andrea, I just want to echo something Tiffany said. When you go back out to the North Lead Service Lines homepage, at the bottom of the page, it says ordinance mandatory replacement, September 20, 10/19. You can find a copy of the ordinance right there.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID, followed by.
Gosh, that was a lot of information. I appreciate the time spent on it because the residents who are engaged are, you know, they're definitely appreciative. So, Ms. Stewart, if you're gonna talk about the bottled water distribution, oh, that's ended. Okay, so I'd like to hear from Mr. Nadi. Tell us all about what's going on.
Oh, I'm happy to, Andrea. So the water treatment plant, I mean, for residents that don't know this, and I'm sure many of them do, but for those that don't, the city of Newark is really blessed with one of the most pristine watersheds in the state of New Jersey, frankly, in the country. 5 of the most pristine reservoirs around supply the city with drinking water. However, as time goes on, the city has taken a very aggressive stance in terms of renewal and replacement of some of its assets. And basically the mayor, the director, assistant director have really taken on this position of being best in class for the residents of the city of Newark. So the renewal and replacement program is very aggressive. And some of the things that are going on just this past month, the city replaced 2 very large valves that deliver water from one of those reservoirs into the treatment plant. These are 7-ton valves. There were 2 of them, and frankly, they had been in place for the last 65 years. They were replaced and they're brand new. They're in place and they'll last at least another 65 years. So it's those kinds of projects that are going on at the plant, and that forward-thinking renewal and replacement of assets is really an exciting thing. Beyond that, with the water quality regulations by the federal and state government constantly becoming more and more stringent to provide more and more safe drinking water to customers, there are a lot of things that the city's involved in staying ahead of the regulations. And some of those projects right now are one that has recently been designed. The contract is about to be awarded to the contractor, and we're excited about the start of that project. And that started a project that the latest will be about September 1st of this year, and that's called the Filter Upgrade Project, in which they're taking the filters. We're taking the filters that filter out some of the impurities in our reservoir system, and it's upgrading all of those filters and putting in air scouring, which is a brand new process for. By the way, these are those cone valves that I spoke about earlier, these 7-ton units. Nice looking valves. They went in, and it took a contractor about 3 days per valve to install those. So that was an exciting project. But as I was saying about the filter upgrade project, all the filters that have been in place since the late 1980s will be upgraded, replaced. A new cleaning mechanism called air scouring will be put into place. We're going to be looking at new generators in the plant, new pumps in the plant. So these are really exciting times at the plant. Another thing that's come on the horizon, which is currently in the design phase, is something called dissolved air flotation. And that innovative new process, frankly, there's very few plants in the state of New Jersey that use this technology, but Newark is going to be one of the forerunners of this project, of this technology, is dissolved air flotation. And that takes tiny little impurities out of the water through air bubbles and floats them out and takes out these tiny little infinitesimal impurities. And that's going to be our dissolved air flotation facility, currently under design, probably be in construction in 2022. So those are some of the exciting things that are going on at the plant. And I'm happy if anybody has any questions, residents have questions specifically, I'm here every day, all day, and you can reach me at 973-697-5458, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as they relate to water quality, the testing of our water quality, the new projects that are going on. And just lastly, another exciting thing that's going on, and it's a real testament to this administration, is there are a lot of young professionals that are being hired by the city, and really it's bolstering its workforce with a lot of young engineers in certain instances and other professionals, professional engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. These are exciting times at the Department of Water and Sewer. And that's what I have right now, Andrea.
So I do have a couple things. So, and in no particular order, you were just talking about all of the exciting things going on. And it's so funny. Every time you start talking, I get a different kind of energy. Like, because I'm not an engineer and I'm not into like all of that technical stuff. But to hear you talk about it, and of course, when it's a word that I don't understand, I'm like, what does that mean? You know, what are those initials? But, you know, like I still just need to come and do a tour. And I know that residents also want to, you know, come up there and see it for themselves. So I'm not going to continue to say that, hey, this is something that's going to happen now that the pandemic is over. We got to, you know, start planning these tours.
Yes, absolutely. And we're happy to have you and residents, frankly, if you have a group and you're interested in coming up and seeing the plant, we're more than happy to accommodate tours here. And it's always really exciting because people, first of all, our location in this watershed is just a beautiful location to come up to. The plant itself is usually very revealing to folks because they're like, geez, I didn't know there was that much going on in water treatment. So that's an exciting part of it. And we're happy to do it. And it sounds like, you know, we're excited, but we really are all the time. It's a fun place to be and it's a great learning experience. So please feel free to give us a call and set up a tour.
Now, just to take a step back from the excitement, can you just go through the process? And I think we haven't really been through the process since some of like the very early meetings. Like what surprised me and what I took for granted is that, you know, like when it rains, the water just goes through whatever, and then it goes through a filter and it comes to our house. But I didn't realize, you know, the aspect of, you know, all of the elements and the animals and stuff and the filtration system. So just like fairly quickly, can you go through that process of how, you know, the start of the water to when it comes in our home?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that, and I'll try to do it as concisely as possible and put it in hopefully layman's terms, if you will. So as I stated before, we have a great watershed. There's 5 water supply reservoirs, and that allows us to treat about anywhere from 35 to 55 million gallons of water. So the first step of our process really is protection of that watershed. So we have an enormous watershed, and as it turns out, our assistant director, Tiffany Stewart, is over that group, the Watershed Protection Group, and that means that the watershed needs to be protected from any contaminants from developments or any sources of contamination that could get into the reservoir itself. So there's a security group to make sure that people that aren't authorized don't come into the facility and potentially contaminate that. And then there's a whole watershed group that takes samples throughout the watershed in those reservoirs and look at the quality of water that we're about to treat. So that's step one. The water from there comes into the facility, into our pre-treatment process. And in the pre-treatment process, what we do is we add something called a coagulant. And what a coagulant does is it takes impurities out of the water by adding a chemical to it, and it forms something called flock particles, which come through the plant and they settle out into our filters, almost like snow onto the filter surface, and those impurities are removed. From that point, we add chlorine, which is a disinfectant, to make sure that the water is safe to drink from any microbes or bacteria that will be in the water. So that's the disinfection process. We talked about, we add polymer as well. Polymers aid in that coagulation process that we talked about before to further take out those impurities. Those flock particles that come onto filters are actually filtered out, and then the water that comes out of those filters is very, very clean and pristine. From there, we need to adjust the pH. And the pH, for those of you that are familiar with pH, either you have a pool or have been to a pool, pH is the amount of acidity or basicness to the water. So if water is acidic, it's going to have some bite to it. And if it's basic, it's going to seem really slippery. So what we try to do is control the pH of the water by adding some lime, which many residents add to their lawn. But that's also, we use a higher grade of lime, which controls our pH. And we try to get pH somewhere around 7.0, which is neutral. So it's not very biting or acidic, or it's not very, slippery or basic. And then from that point, once we've controlled that, we add post-chlorine to make sure as water travels through the pipeline that there isn't any additional microbial activity in those pipelines, and it gets to the customers very safely. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about us adding at our satellite feed stations our orthophosphate, which controls corrosion in our distribution system, which is really responsible. The two-prong approach to getting lead out of our water systems are the lead replacement program, which you've heard so much about, but is also the addition of orthophosphate, which coats the pipes to make sure none of the other elements, including lead deposits that were left there in some of the other areas of the pipeline, it's coated and it protects those pipelines from depositing any additional lead into the distribution system. The only other thing I didn't talk about is we use something called potassium permanganate early on in the process, and that controls taste and odors. So that water that comes to the customers has a palatable taste and odor. And as you're probably aware, if customers have any concerns about taste and odor in the water that comes into their home, I'm here to answer any questions about that. And you can also call the Department of Water and Sewer, and we're happy to come out and take a sample at your specific residence. We'll take that sample, and generally between about 48 hours up to 72 hours, you'll get results on that, and we'll give you an idea of what the bacteriological quality is like, whether it has any taste and odor issues or anything specific to your home. Because sometimes, as well as we treat the water, certain things going on in your home may be contributing to that. So we'll help you solve that problem. And that's pretty much the process, Andrea.
So two quick things. So the taste and order, the potassium, blah, blah,
Permanganate.
blah,
Yes.
that you mentioned. So what step at what point does that happen? Is that before the chlorine disinfectant or before the pH balance?
Before both of those. I
Oh,
should have done that in order, but when we talked about the coagulant, right before the coagulant is added, it's probably one of the very first things that we do. Potassium permanganate, which is a very strong oxidant, which means it attacks taste and odors caused by algae, caused by leaves falling into the reservoir, which is a natural part of the process. It attacks those byproducts that come into the process, and it reduces taste and odor in drinking water. So it's early on in the process.
so it's really right after we protect and secure everything. That's like one of the first steps.
It's one of the first steps, yes.
So when people complain about the discoloration of their water, that's not something from the plant, that's something local?
Well, yes. Typically what happens is as water travels, and Director Adim can go into some detail because, you know, some of the folks that work in the distribution system are dealing with those issues oftentimes. Sometimes water mains need to be flushed in particular areas because of deposition that starts occurring in pipelines. It's a natural process that occurs. And part of the maintenance of distribution systems is really about a robust flushing program. And Director Adim can go into some specifics on that, but if you find your water is discolored, it could be because the mains need to be flushed, but typically because it's on a routine schedule, the city flushes it out on a routine basis, but sometimes there's certain pockets or occurrences that if you give us a call, you know, they'll get out and take care of that. Maybe Director Adim would like to talk about that further.
Yeah, I'll give you just a little help on it. You know, twice a year, the fire department comes out and perform an annual inspection, and they're open on the fire hydrants, and they're opening fire hydrants. And, you know, when pressure drops or a high volume of water starts moving through the pipe, it may scour the bottom of the pipe and you get a little discoloration, a temporary discoloration, right? And then mainly you go in the house, you open up the bathtub and it clears right up, and we'll come back out and flush it. Or the cities doing what Mr. Nadi just said, you know, we're flushing, doing preventative maintenance, flushing, moving water, making sure water's not stale, lasts is in the system, water quality improvement. We're flushing the system, and because of the loss of pressure or the increase in pressure, sometimes you'll get that little discoloration. But most of the times when you see that in the city, or we're working on the block, right? You see the water department working around the corner, there's a large main break. It's a loss of pressure. You may get, you know, a little bit of discoloration. Or your hot water tank may be about to go and you see that little brown water sometimes or discolored. That's what it's telling you. I just want to, you know, I know we don't have too much longer on the community meeting, Andre. I just want to highlight a couple of things. You know, hats off to the administration. Jerry said it, Tiffany said it, you said it, you know, the world's saying it now, you know, hats off to the administration for what Newark is doing and taking the lead. But everybody only looks at the lead service line. This administration came in 2014 and hit the ground running. From 2014, and it's not including the lead service line replacement, this administration has invested over, you know, $200 million in improvements in the water and wastewater system, right? And that does not include the lead service line project. And right now, we've already identified, you know, in the next 5 years, about another 240 million in projects that we're looking to do. You know, I just want to highlight that. You know, you see crews out right now, we're replacing fire hydrants, we're installing new fire hydrants. We're doing cleaning and relining the water mains, we're still doing that. We're making improvements on our dams with the Basquiat Gate improvement. We're improving our spillways. The new, Jerry talked about the new DAF facility. On the sewer side, I mean, on the billing and customer service side, we're going to replace, upgrade our meter system and our billing system. That's in the future. On the long-term control program, right? To reduce flooding throughout the city, right? And also, put a little GI, right? We're going to be, improving on how we discharge water out into the rivers, right? Part of the reduced, discharges to the rivers. So we're going to be doing that, and that's like a, $300 million program. Metering Passaic Valley water, right? We're going to be putting meters in to meter Passaic Valley water so we can get a better understanding on how they build the residents in the city. Improving on our screening and netting facilities, that work is going on. The small sewer assessment, all those crews that you see out there, you say, they're not doing water work. What are they doing? They're doing sewer work. We're cleaning, relining of those small diameter pipes, sewer pipes from 22 inches on down. And a lot of that requires us to replace some of them at times, right? This is the old city, third oldest major city in the country. Green infrastructure projects. We have a RFQ out right now to bring a couple of consultants on to help us, work not only with the water department, but various departments and other entities throughout the city and the state. We're putting more green GI, more green, a more green environment to the city, whether that's planting trees, rain gardens, all that type outdoor, when recreation upgrade some of the parks, we'll be making sure we can get some green in there and some storage for this water to eliminate flooding all throughout the city. Our frontage road, and we just finished it. We just finished the project down on South and Adams Street, right? To reduce and eliminate flooding historically that's been going on over there for about 40 years. So that project is very successful. We're doing the final punch list items on that project. I think it's a ribbon cutting moment soon to come out of that. We're going to be replacing water mains, putting new water mains, like Jerry said, some of those old water mains. We're going to we're replacing some of that. Upgrading, our Cedar Grove Reservoir, which is probably like a $100 million project, right? Putting in a new UV facility, doing a bifurcation of that 700 million gallon treated water storage, right? During Sandy, everybody in the state was offline. Jerry can contest to that, right? But Newark was able to turn the valve by gravity and help, supply waters to northern New Jersey and, in parts of, the state that had issues during that time. So that's great. I just want to talk about, those are some of the projects you don't see, but pretty soon we want to, we send out our quarterly progress report, but there's a lot of projects going on that you don't see because lead takes, most of the attention in the water and sewer department that we're doing. You can see all those new trucks out there that say water and sewer, to limit the response time. We're cleaning the city. We're cleaning those catch basins, right? We're reducing flooding. We're putting in new water and sewer pipes along with our contractors. And I just want to commend the administration, right? Because in 2012 and 2010, right, it was saying that, we couldn't run our water system and we needed anywhere from $500 to $800 million in improvements. And hats off to come in and say, you know what? We put 200 million into the system already. And another, not counting the lead service line money. I just want to remove that money and say, look, we've already identified another, 250 million in projects that we're starting to implement. And we started implementing those last year. So hats off to the administration and the water and sewer department's executive team and Director Stewart.
Excellent.
Jerry.
Thank you so much, Director Deem. Of course, hats off to the administration because without that vision, none of this really could come forward and be implemented in such a way.
And our city council,
For your leadership.
and we can't leave our city council out, but Shannon and administration's vision to get this stuff done and stop kicking it down the road.
That's true because we definitely needed their votes.
And
Right. Without them and the vision, it wouldn't happen.
so we want to, so Andrea, we want to thank them. And don't forget, it's for free. Free water filters, free water filter replacement cartridges, free water testing, free lead blood testing over at our health department. Dr. Wade Caitlin and the staff over there, right? Free home inspections where they test your home for lead paint. Mike Wilson and the staff over there with Dr. Wade and Caitlin and everybody, right? This stuff is free. 733 lead, 973-733 lead.
And let me just add, and I hope we don't get kicked off of Zoom because you brought up a couple things. So the first thing I like to say is regarding getting your children and stuff tested for lead. The city of Newark has a lead abatement program. So if you are interested and you think you have lead, or if there's children under the age of 6 that are in your home frequently and you have an older home, please get it inspected. Again, everything is free and you could possibly get it remediated, abated at no cost. Contact Environmental Health, Mr. Wilson, 973-733-3719 or 733 lead, as Director Adeem mentioned. Director Adeem, to step back 2 seconds, you were talking about all of those big things that we were doing and the stuff behind the scenes and all of that money. It sounds like a bunch of money to me. Does that mean our water rates are going to increase? Or have they increased?
We're having that conversation, Andrea. Hopefully, as we move on in the future, we'll be setting up some more meetings, and then we'll say follow the progress, but it'll be the real conversation about water. You living in an older city, right? We need to value our city and stop kicking it down the road. I don't think it's going to increase tomorrow or something like that. But as we make efficiencies in the system, right, and as we continue to do upgrade, hopefully we can sell more water, right, to more communities outside of the city, right? Because one time people were telling, we had people in the city telling other communities, don't buy water from Newark. Hey, buying water from Newark, keep your rates down, right? Putting meters in and upgrading the meters, keep your rate down. But actually to do repairs, it costs money. So that's a question that as we move in towards the future, we're gonna have to, evaluate that. Save more money, right? Conserve more water, sell more water, and try to keep the rate stable.
So I had to ask that question because, we like to be transparent. And we do still have the best water in the country, right?
We always do. We got the most
stuff?
pristine water quality right now.
All right, just making sure. So we are a little over time. I do appreciate everybody for tuning in, specifically the residents, but of course, without the panelists, we wouldn't get the information and the accurate information. So thank you so much for taking your time out to bring this information to us. Be sure to get your water samples after your lead service lines are replaced. Be sure to pick up your free water filters or your pitchers if you have that nifty gooseneck kind of not plain faucet. And also, if you need contact information or have any questions whatsoever, you're more than welcome to contact 973-733-6303, which is Water and Sewer Customer Service. I'm sorry, no, it's the director's office. 973-733-6303. You can go to the website, newarkleadserviceline.com. Or you can, if all else fails, just reach out to my office, Newark People's Assembly at ci.newark.nj.us. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.